Hey everyone, how's it going? Before I start this video, I'd like to say that I'm very open to discussion and would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thank you. I've been thinking about TF2's matchmaking. It occurred to me how ridiculous it is to actually have any sort of ranking in this game. It just doesn't really work with how complex of a game TF2 really is. Team Fortress 2 and Counter-Strike both use the Glico 2 rating system, which put very simply figures out how good you are, how consistently you are that good, and the difference in rank of your opponent, i.e. beating someone who is a lot higher ranked than you will rank you up more. Which yes, Valve has heavily modified it for their games, but originally it was created for games like chess, where it's just like a 1v1 type thing. Now it's all well and good, let's look at Counter-Strike, where no one has ever complained about the matchmaking ever. I'd say about 95% of the time you're playing a match of CS, you are playing with 3 weapons. The AK and an M4. This is how the game's been for almost 30 years. This is going to be a lot easier for the rating system to figure out where to put you if you played, say, 50 games, because there's not very many variables that throw your skill level out of whack. Obviously, that's very simplified and more of a best case scenario of what would happen, because unfortunately humans are involved and computers do not like to figure out human behavior. So going over to TF2, you see this loadout here? Best case scenario, I use this exact loadout for like 1 full match. I, like most people, change my loadout and what class I'm playing pretty often, sometimes multiple times a match. Now let's say theoretically, I did just play the same loadout as Scout for 100 matches to give the MMR system my rating. The only thing it's seen me play with is this loadout. It probably has a pretty good grasp on how I'm going to play, how consistent I've done that, and what level of opponents to put me against. So now I load into my 101st game and I decide I want to play Demo Man. So sorry everyone else at my rank, you have to wait for me to figure out how fucking projectiles work. Not to say as well that the game was expecting me to play Scout. Putting me in a match is a good fit for my team, specifically if I'm playing Scout per its data on me. So now do you want MMR based on classes? Well, what if I switch to a weapon that I'm not as good with, or just mid-match I randomly switch to Demo Knight, which isn't even the same role as normal Demo Man, but I'd have the same elo as my normal Demo Man rank. Well, then we can have separate weapon and loadout MMR, and you can start to see how far this can be taken. The only realistic way I think you can make this work is if you pick your class and loadout before you go into a match and then it's locked, which I don't think anybody playing this game really wants that. Like imagine you couldn't switch to the direct hit to help kill an NG, or you have a Kritzkrieg and your opponent has the minigun. It would just be so taxing for the computer to try and figure out all these different rules and stipulations for each class and loadout for 24 different people. I think it would just set on fire and blow up. Now I want to talk about how maps will also impact this. Like if we look at CS2, they have 2 separate ways of queuing. There's Premier Mode, which is what most people play with the number as your rank. You queue and pick and ban your maps to choose which map you'll play on, and your rank reflects your skill across all these maps. And you're somewhat expected to have some basic knowledge on these maps. There's 7 maps. In contrast to what's known as competitive mode in CS, I know, confusing, the difference is you get a rank separate for each map. There's 14 maps. Minus 3 hostage maps, which aren't the quote-unquote normal game mode of Defusal, and 2 community maps, which aren't going to be played as much as their official maps. That leaves 9 maps. They added separate ranks per map because a lot of people would only ever queue for 1 map, and because their rank would be high from that, they didn't want to play on other maps they didn't know and lose their rank. Now, not counting MISC, Manpower, Pastime, or a reskin, TF2 has 107 maps. How do you give someone an MMR for over 100 different maps across 3 game modes? Do you do the Premier way of just throw you in and you're expected to just know how to play all of these? Or give people a rank based on each and every map they play on? Which I guess this is more of an argument of why there's so many damn maps in this game, because every direction you point at, only having like 15, maybe 30 would suffice. That's not really what I want to talk about right now, as well as I'm not really getting into the whole casual versus quick play argument that I see, because I don't really find it productive to sit here and argue on what's right and wrong when there are blatant facts to address first. I want to kind of just look at the fact that TF2 really doesn't work well with any sort of skill-based matchmaking because of just how much there is to calculate for any given person. I'm not saying it can't, couldn't, or shouldn't have one, but it would have to be a near perfect system, if not a perfect system, and that's just not gonna happen because humans aren't computers and they aren't perfect. They're actually going to do stupid shit to try and break the system on purpose. This game was just created at a time where playing games competitively wasn't really commonplace. Of course it happened. Halo 2 in 2004 had a skill-based matchmaking system called TrueSkill. It's not like it never existed before TF2, it just really wasn't something something implemented in games until after TF2 was released. So just trying to copy CSGO's matchmaking system into TF2, especially its casual mode, was just plain naive from Valve. If Valve wanted the Team Fortress franchise to become a more competitive franchise, they should have just made a new game focused around it instead of trying to brute force it into a game that already existed. Thank you for watching. As I said at the start, I'd love to discuss anything relating to this. I'm not trying to start any heated arguments, but I would genuinely like to hear why you think the current matchmaking system is good. I hope you enjoyed. I hope to see you in the next one.